and I'm writing for kids who, frankly, probably haven't read Harry Potter and have never read a 500-page book. And if this is the first book, I hear that a lot from teachers, this is the first book my student has been excited about. This is the first book my student finished and wanted to read again. If I'm going to hook you, it's got to be fast-paced and generally short. The books are getting longer in the series, but I'm trying to make sure it's under 50,000 words so that you don't feel, a kid who's a reluctant reader doesn't feel intimidated when they pick it up. Parents who are doing read alouds, a lot of parents, I was very surprised by the number of parents who said, I'm reading this with my 4-year-old at night. We do a chapter every night before bed. Never imagined a 4-year-old as the audience for this series, but that's wonderful. It's become a family reading, experience. And then a lot of schools chose it for their one book, one school program, which means everybody from K to 5 is reading the same book. And I do a lot of K to 5 presentations. So being able to talk to such a wide range of ages and have it all sort of make sense, that's pretty special.
What's been your favorite reader reaction so far?
Probably the photos where parents or teachers show a kid who looks like Jax holding up the book saying, he looks like me, I never had a book with a kid on the cover who looked like me. I never saw my name. I had a parent, South Asian parent, who said she was reading the book with her, gosh, might have been 3-year-old and 7-year-old, and their names were Vikram and Kavita. And she was just like, you can't, she was like, I never had this growing up. So a lot of times it's parents saying, I'm still healing. I remember what it felt like to be invisible. And so for a parent to sort of heal at the same time that they're giving their kids this exciting adventure where they feel seen, that's really the main thing I'm trying to do, is to say, I see you, Kenny. I see you with that picture of your dad up on the wall and you scratched his face out. I think I might've done that myself a couple of times, but you miss him desperately because you're wearing his fishing vest, and Kenny's dyslexic, trying to make sure I'm including as many different kinds of kids as possible and using different names. I regret that during the pandemic, I didn't have an opportunity, couldn't find really an opportunity to do the kind of research I needed to on Quiche as a language and a culture, but, putting that in book 3 and, trying to include some Quiche words. And, we have a large Latino population here in Chicago, in the United States generally, but it's often assumed to be Mexican. And we have so many, Latinx kids who don't speak Spanish. That's not their mother tongue. They speak indigenous languages. So trying to make sure that you're representing indigeneity in a respectful way, and representing folks with disabilities, representing folks on the gender spectrum, especially in this moment where, so many school boards and ridiculous state assemblies are trying to ban books that, finally give marginalized kids a chance to feel seen. It's all that more important to be deliberate and to be intentional and to be open and vocal about what I'm doing. One of my books, A Place Inside of Me, looks like it's about to be banned in Hanover County, Virginia, and I'm going there in a couple of days. And my publisher hired private security, because when you look at the school board meetings, it's essentially a mob. It's a mob of white parents foaming at the mouth and screaming at school board officials. And, when they invited me, my first question was, is Virginia an open carry state? And it is. So it was like, okay, so here we have this county official saying my book is anti-police. I don't particularly think I feel comfortable relying on the police to provide security at this event. So my publisher's hiring security guards. It's just like, how did we get here? Like, this is not what I thought I was signing up for, but it doesn't hurt me, frankly. If they ban it, it's probably going to sell more, but it hurts those kids. Like, if you don't want your kid to read it, fine. Your kid doesn't have to read my book, but why would you try to take it away from every child in the county? That's where we are.
I've unfortunately spent a lot of time over the last 4 or 5 years asking why. Why are you like this? Why are you doing this? But that's a whole nother long podcast that we're not going to get to tonight. But when you're up against that sort of opposition, obviously you got to go there. You got to show them that, hey, this is happening. You can't wish this away. This has been happening. But why is it important to continue to go there in person as opposed to maybe a Zoom visit?
Yeah, so I was pretty surprised, and I haven't been to this community, this county, so I don't know what the dynamics are, but it seems like the book is being banned. The impulse to ban the book is coming from one particular area, and then the book festival is being organized by a neighboring community, and I get the feeling there's probably some competition there. There may be some class issues, I'm not sure. But, you know, progressive people all around the country are standing up. Thank God, you know, that they see what's happening, and they don't want that to be, you know, representative of their entire community. I mean, if you said to me, what do I know about Virginia? I'm like, seat of the Confederacy in Charlottesville. I don't have anything really positive to say about Virginia because I haven't been there to spend much time. We used to drive through on our way to Florida. There's a picture of us in front of like some big old plantation. Like, I really don't have a whole lot of great things to say. So it is really heartening to me that as soon as the county supervisor called my book garbage, you know, people reached out and said, we're so sorry that this is happening and we're going to fight the ban. And a minister, African-American minister, reached out and said, I'd like to read your whole book at the next supervisor's meeting. And another mother reached out and said, how can I get involved with my kids? And then to have the theater owner say, you know what, we're going to start a book festival. Like, we've never had a book festival before, but we're going to do it. And we'd like you to be, you know, our guest of honor. So you have to make sure that you're embodying the values that you profess. And so I certainly believe in freedom of speech, and I do not support book bans. And I want to make sure those folks feel supported. I mean, the librarian at the school, what she's gone through, and having, you know, being terrified her name's going to be published somewhere or her address because she knows how she might be targeted. And, you know, she shouldn't be apologizing to me. It's not her fault. And, you know, so to be able to get them tickets to the event, that was one small thing I could do. And I said, you know, I'd love to do a school visit. And I thought a Zoom would be a better idea because then everybody in the whole county could tune in. But they wanted me to go to one particular school and they're live streaming it. So I'll be doing it live, but other schools can also show up. There's a Black-owned bookstore, and I'll be going to the bookstore in the afternoon. There are a lot of politicians coming to dinner and the reception afterwards. You know, they've really put a lot of thought into this, and they are engaging their entire community. This is an opportunity for people who feel silenced or scared, you know, to be in the majority and to say, here's us, this is our team. We're team freedom of speech. We want kids to have access to books. I mean, it's a rather dubious distinction, right? To be the only county in the country that found a problem with this book. This is a book that won the Caldecott Honor Award. It was a National Council of Teachers of English notable poetry book. It was an ALSC, Library Services for Children, notable. I mean, it's a book that not every, but so many children's literature professionals trained in the field have deemed worthy. And to have a small group of people who think that they don't need to respect that kind of training and expertise, that their opinion matters more, and that they should get to decide what kids have in their hands. It's not good. It's not good. So I think the community wants to stand up and make a show of their own values. And I'm happy to be there to lend my support and to thank them for theirs.
That must take, and I have to just imagine, a tremendous amount of courage. I don't know that I would have that courage to go there. But of course, you go there and they see you, and the people in the community who say, this isn't us, this doesn't represent us. And I understand. I'm in Indiana. We're the former head of the Ku Klux Klan. It's not great here. Our history, it's not swell. But I'm here. Maurice Broaddus is here. Barbara Shoup's here. Lots of great people are here. And there are lots of great people in Virginia, and they're going to hear you speak, and they're going to be heartened, and they're going to say, hey, we're not alone. There's actually quite a lot of us, and we don't have to give in to these monsters that rose up amongst us, or maybe we're always here and we're just being quiet for a bit.
Yeah. I think, I just imagine, like, what example are you setting for your children? This county supervisor who calls the book garbage and he puts it on Facebook. And I just think, if you have a problem with the book, there are lots of different ways you can talk about it. And frankly, you can make your own book. Like, if you're so concerned about your values not being represented, make a book. That's what marginalized people have been doing forever, right? We couldn't eliminate white supremacist texts. So we wrote counter narratives. We produced something to stand in opposition to what was there. So this idea, this just the sense of entitlement, right? That what I want should be what everybody has to live with. And I just think we just came out of a pandemic. What teaching involves. It's hard. It's really hard. It's not the same thing as parenting. But if you don't like what's happening in your school, homeschool. Take your child out and keep them at home and homeschool. Then you get to call all the shots. But to say, no, we're going to take over the school board and then we're going to make sure that our values are imposed on everybody else. And we don't care if it's causing harm to children. That's the amazing thing, right? They've got this narrative that says, we're here to protect kids. This is harmful to kids. And it's completely imaginary. It's an absolute fiction. But, Democrats have not been that good at coming up with their own messaging to counter that. So, it's really important for writers and artists and people who understand storytelling and fictions and messaging to sort of get on board and go down there and say, here's what I want to model for children. If somebody doesn't like something you've made, that's not really nice. It kind of sucks if somebody says your work is garbage. But if you believe in yourself and you believe in what you're doing, like I'm going to be spouting all kinds of positivity messages, motivational stuff when I'm down there. In addition to doing my standard presentation, which is about racism in publishing. That's a part of every book talk I give. So it's funny that they have a problem with this book because I've written a whole lot of stuff that is more controversial, but I guess they haven't found it yet. I think every conservative politician is just waiting for a book they can jump on and use that to feed their base, pander to their base. So yeah, it doesn't hurt my feelings. I saw Jason Reynolds and Kiesi Lehman give a talk where they said it hurt their feelings when their books were banned. It doesn't hurt my feelings. Not at all. If it was somebody I respected and somebody who had expertise in the field, maybe. But yeah, for some politician to just spout off on social media, that doesn't hurt me. It hurts the kids though.
Well, trying to expect such ignorant people to have a clear argument for why this book and not that book, or to read. By God, reading leads to empathy.
Oh.
And technically, secular sources that would disrupt their faith and way of seeing the world. New information would get in there and really make it hard to continue to believe what they want to believe. They've got to pick the biggest, broadest target they can. Yeah. It's hard for me to be apolitical when this type of stuff comes up because they're not apolitical. They absolutely mean us harm.
They do. And people have long tried to pretend that children's literature was apolitical and that it was just entertainment and light and fun. But everybody has known all along that all of our books for children are embedded with messages and with values. They're coded. And so, there are reasons why Dr. Seuss books, some of them were pulled, right? There are some of them we don't use in the classroom anymore, but you can still have a conversation about how the content of a book can be harmful. And I think that's really what they're afraid of, is that conversation, right? If they're worried about an illustration that has police and a Black child who's angry about police-involved shooting in his community, what they really don't want is to have a conversation about racial profiling and police misconduct, right? So they're just going to say, this book is anti-police and we're going to pull it from the shelves and nobody ever talks about it ever again. Instead of saying, there are people in our community who have a different relationship to the police. And here's why, here's what it's based on. But they don't want to have that, there's no nuance, right? It has to be, the police are always right, the police are always good. That's how we see the police. Therefore, that's the message that should be promoted in every book in our library. And any child who's having a different experience, a different lived experience day after day after day, you don't matter. And we're not going to protect you. And we don't care if you feel silenced or shamed or excluded or traumatized. None of that matters. You don't deserve a book that's a mirror. Only our children deserve books that are mirrors. So, you know, it really is about making sure that all the empathy is reserved for one group of kids and for nobody else. To think that that's the value you want to teach your child, that's just a disgrace.